Alright, welcome to this edition of the Duval Dummies. I added a DIY drawer system to the bed of my Tacoma. This video will go through most of the steps that I did that was involved. So as I set up my work area here, I'll just say that I'm pretty new to this whole process of filming and recording all that stuff, so some of the things weren't captured due to dead batteries or my GoPro 3 not recording, or just me getting too excited and forgetting to do it. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so right here, we're just going to measure the bed out, get your length to the back, get a good stopping point, right about where those ridges go down, so where you're going to want to stop. When you're measuring the width, make sure you measure all areas, up all the way to the front, right there where I just measured, and then towards the back. Once you get that done, you have to come back and you have to measure where the wheel wells go back into the bed, and all that is just measuring down to the edge of the wheel well, and then back up from your stopping point back to the wheel well to get that area there that's outside of the wheel well. Alright, so here I am. I'm taking some measurements and transferring them to the plywood, preparing to cut. And it fits perfect the very first time. So now I'm just cutting up some 1x2s for the outside edges and the framing for the drawer. Now we're measuring and marking screw hole locations and going ahead and popping in some screws. Put the next board on, get it right where you want it, clamp it down. Make sure it's nice and square. Flip the whole thing over, mark out your screw holes, and screw it in. Alright, starting to look like something. So here I'm adding 2-inch spacers to the cab side wall of the drawer. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow for wires to be run around the back side of the drawer to come around to the front, the drawer side. And that way, if I ever decide to take it out, I'll be able to take it out pretty easily without having to unhook a bunch of wires from the switches. And this is cutting the pass-through for all the wires that will eventually go in there. Nice safety glasses there, fella. As I said earlier, everything was recorded, or everything wasn't recorded, but here's the drawer. It's fully built, 4 foot long, 21 inches wide, and 9 inches deep. Here's a ridge that's still left. I'll have to route that out later. For my drawer rollers, I'm using skateboard ball bearings as guides and aluminum square tubing as runners. I'm using 11 ball bearings per side. They're gapped vertically at an 1/8 of an inch wider than the 1-inch tubing. They're spaced out horizontally, 5 inches apart for the first 3, and then 10 inches apart for the last 3. As you saw there, that was the jig setup that I had to make everything the same every single time. So what I used was a bolt the same diameter as the ball bearing. I then added a washer, and then the ball bearing, if I can hold on to it. Then another small washer. And that will go through the wood, where I'll add a large fender washer, and then the nut with Loctite on it. Alright, next I measured and cut for the top of the door box. Good old chalk line. Alright, there it is on top. As you can see, I have to route around the inside of that battery box. I also left it a little bit long on both ends, on the front and the back. That way I could route it and make it nice and perfect. So here's the router. It's a Diablo 3/8 inch flush trim. Makes life a lot easier. Here's that box again. You can see the runner down there at the bottom. Just route that off real quick and it'll be perfectly flush. Bam, Flush City. Alright, and now for the battery box. Get that cut out. And now for the back. Hey, safety glasses. Thank you. Go ahead and finish out the rest of that. So when I decided to move my red arc system from the back wall of my truck to the top of the battery box, I haven't raised the battery box up just a few inches, so that's what I'm doing right here. Just measuring the pieces that I need to cut to raise that up. Oh look, maybe the last recycling pickup of 2021. So now I'm just cutting the top for the battery box. I'm going to drill a hole so that I can put my finger in it to pull that battery box up. It's going to sit down recessed in there. You can see how it's going to sit when it goes in. Little sanding and it fits like a glove. Alright, next I added a drawer face. You can see on the left there those row of bolts. That's where the ball bearings are. Each one of those bolt heads or nut heads has a ball bearing attached to it. you go. You can see there how the runner goes into those bolt or into the bearings. It's super smooth. Alright, so now I'm drilling in the face from the back side of the drawer. And boom. So I went on Amazon and bought a latch that locks. It's pretty big, so I cut the face out for that. So the way I designed this drawer system was that the driver's side would have a removable hatch, the length of the drawer, and it would hold the switch panel and the battery gauge, and then I would also hide a quick disconnect plug for all the wiring leading up to the fuse block. So right here you can see where I have to notch around where the tail light is on the back of the truck. There's also, in between that notch and where that blue tape is, there's a little slant piece that you have to kind of guess on. I got lucky and guessed right the first time. And bang, it's in there. A little love from the axe and disco. Alright, so I went with an Amazon 5-gang switch panel with a USB charging combo, and then I got a battery percentage gauge. Here you can see how it's all pre-wired. Really easy to connect. You just need a bus bar for your negatives, and this is where the battery indicator is going to go, and then also the switch panel. So we'll get to drilling those out. For that switch panel, all you do is you plug your positive wires in to each switch, and then you run your negative to another negative bus bar, and that will allow you to just run 2 wires from the switch panel up to the fuse box. That guy needs to slow down. And with a little bit of jigsaw work, boom, they're in. Alright, so adding some polyurethane to the drawer, and then also the whole system. This will just help if I ever spill something in there like oil or something like that, it won't leak into the wood and saturate it. And just like that, she's done. This is obviously the first part of the build, the construction phase. It opens up real smooth. You hear it, how it sounds. It's really easy to open and close. Even with all the stuff in it now, it's still pretty easy. So anyway, she's all done. Thanks for watching, and look for the next part coming out soon. Thank you.